It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you, live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles. To be specific, hello everybody and welcome to the Unhappy Hour. I'm your host, Brian Engelman. However, I was going to say, however, it's not the Unhappy Hour because the Cleveland Browns are now in first place. Did you see that trouncing, that butt whooping that we put on the Cincinnati Bengals? Yeah, we did. So I'm happy about that. However, what in the hell is wrong with those Cleveland Cavaliers? Yeah, you know the Cavaliers I'm talking about. Brings in the best player on earth, LeBron James, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. What in the hell is wrong with them? It really doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm going to bring in former NBA scout, current NBA consultant, Zak Baris, to talk to me a little bit about this. I really don't get why it has to be this complicated. I don't understand why LeBron has to play this way and why the team has to struggle at the beginning of forming the super teams. You know, think about the Olympics were super teams and, they win gold medals. I mean, I guess in the early part of James' career, the U.S. men's Olympic team wasn't doing so strong, but I mean, this is a different LeBron James. This is LeBron James that's older, wiser. He's got it figured out. Kyrie's coming off the World Cup. He's the MVP. Kevin Love he's been freaking ridiculous. Just consistent and fantastic. But we're going to bring in Zak to talk about all that stuff. But really quick, if you haven't checked out our homepage, it's called thenewamericanmedia.com. And on the middle right of the page, it says TNAM Radio. That's where you click to listen live to these broadcasts. When are these broadcasts? Well, typically they're Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific for the Unhappy Hour, then 5 p.m. Pacific for Agree to Disagree, which is politics, spirituality, finance, everything you're not supposed to talk about with somebody inside of a bar. But that's where you click to listen to the show live. However, if you miss the show, we post them on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia as well. Please subscribe there. But anyway, go back to the homepage, middle right side, has a TNAM radio button where you can listen live. Underneath that has our Facebook feed, or you can do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. Yeah, we're at 621 likes, but we've only recently started the Facebook thing. Pretty cool resource, man. If you're bored sometimes, scroll back through there. A lot of good Cleveland sports stuff and a lot of politics. So join the conversation. But underneath that on our homepage as well is our Twitter feed. We're at American_media_. So I'm thinking what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring Zak in the program. We're going to start with the Cavs and the NBA, and then we're going to get to some football, I think. I love this time of year with football. Don't forget about the Buckeyes.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Living the dream, Zak. How you doing?
Good, just back in Vegas again.
Maybe that should be like the title of your book. Back in Vegas again. Memoirs of a how would you phrase that? What would your subtitle be? Memoirs of what?
Memoirs of a Baris.
Of a Baris. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're not following Zak on Twitter, he's at ZBaris. That's ZBARIS. Okay, so 3 things. Number 1, don't sleep on them Buckeyes. This is a huge weekend. 2, the Cleveland Browns are in first place after the trouncing we put on Cincinnati. However, I want to split this show up into pieces. I want the first segment to be what in the hell is wrong with the Cavs, and then maybe if we had some time and if you wanted to bounce to the Browns and Buckeyes on the second half. So let's start with this. What in the hell, Zak, is wrong with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now?
The Cavaliers are obviously having chemistry issues. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, take a look at this team. They're just not – I mean, they had 6 assists the other night in the game. I didn't even know that was possible.
What is the lowest you recall? Like, what's the lowest assist total? That
I mean, I've seen some games, 10 or 11, but, I mean, even 9. But 6? Are you kidding me? I mean, the ball movement the other night, I mean, honestly, I didn't even – I got to watch part of it. I was in I watched the whole Utah Jazz game. Yeah, I watched the Jazz game. I was talking about the Portland game. I didn't really even get to watch. I was out in Hershey, Pennsylvania for meetings, so I didn't even get to watch the game. But I did get to watch the whole Utah game.
Yeah, I watched the Trailblazers game. That was the one I really got to really check out the Trailblazers game. Obviously, that first game, losing to the Knicks at home, I watched that whole game as well. But okay, so you're taking this mainly off of what you saw in Utah. And by the way,
in Utah,
Brendan
Hayward.
I
honestly didn't get to see the Portland game. I watched the highlights.
Or Gordon Hayward.
I'm not going to sit there and say I watched it.
Right.
But after watching the Utah game, honestly, their ball movement is atrocious. They're running way too many plays in isolation, which is another problem. I mean, it's honestly trying to get these matchups, and they're basically, it's almost like a street ball game they're playing at this point. Dion Waiters has no clue what in the hell he's doing. I mean, he's going. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, if he didn't mesh well immediately, and his game just really didn't adapt, I think he's going to be traded sooner than later, to tell you the truth. I don't know for what, and I don't know for who yet. But I definitely think the Cavaliers are exploring their options and trying to move Waiters. Another something I've been talking about for a while, this is before Kyrie signed his extension. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's something to keep on the back burner too, is look at the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, they're off to a good start. But look there, if Kyrie can ever be moved, you could look at some kind of trade involving Kyrie to the Suns. I'm not saying it'll happen immediately. Obviously, it won't. It could take weeks. It could take months. It could be at the end of the season. But it could be some kind of move eventually, involving Eric Bledsoe, possibly Alex Len, maybe one of the Morris twins. It's honestly, it's not a trade I've heard about so far, but it's a trade that's got to be going on in the back of the mind of David Griffin and going on with the Phoenix Suns front office, because then they get their superstar in Kyrie Irving to pair along with Goran Dragic and Isaiah Thomas. It could definitely work. It's normally one of the best backcourts in the NBA.
Well, I follow that, Zach, but at what point, I mean, Kyrie has been the only good thing in Cleveland for a while. And let's put the Browns included into that mix, other than Josh Gordon and
But the thing is, Kyrie is great of a thing as Kyrie's been, as he generated any wins in Cleveland.
No, that's true, and I'll give you that. But how long would the Cavs have to be this bad to legitimately deal last year's best player?
I'd say another month.
You'd say only a month? It could
Maybe
be
2
that
months.
quick.
I mean, the thing is, if you're playing this badly in a
This
month,
is bad.
then you've got some serious issues. I mean, don't forget, you still have the best player in the game. You've got Kevin Love, who's a top 5 player in the game, top 6 player in the game. I mean, if that's really the scenario on this team, let's just say, let's just go off a whim here and just say they're 5-16. They're going to start exploring every option. Trust me. I don't assume it's going to be that bad. I expect things to get better. I mean, they're 1-3. Let's see how the Nuggets game goes tonight. I mean, if you lose to Denver tonight, who's one of the worst teams in the NBA, they've been playing horrible. If you lose to Denver tonight, you've got a problem. I mean, there's serious problems. But
I thought if you lost that first game against the Knicks, you had problems.
I mean, it was the first game. It was emotional. Starting Sean Marion, though, at shooting guard, it was just a move that didn't make sense to me. If you're going to go start someone at shooting guard, start Mike Miller at shooting guard. See how that plays out. He's barely taken any shots on the season. They really need to get him more involved.
Right.
And like I said, these guys are going to take a while to get acclimated to this offense. It's only a matter of time.
And what
like I said, David Blatt coming over to the NBA, there's going to be an adjustment period. But David Blatt is not on the hot seat by any means. Nothing's going to happen at this point. I mean, like I said, I could see Dion being traded because I just don't feel he's fit. He still has a very selfish mindset.
Yeah, but the way you're watching the game, though, I mean, doesn't it seem like Kyrie is just as selfish? Oh, yeah,
there's no doubt about it, but Kyrie's much more talented than Dion. That's what I'm saying. If Kyrie really is this selfish, eventually they'll go out and they'll look to trade him. I'm not saying it's going to happen right now. I'm not even sitting here overreacting to it. I'm saying it's possible if they keep playing like this. That's looking in the foreseeable future. If this keeps occurring, then that's what's going to happen.
Well,
you will not be a Cavalier for a long time. Plus, he's got a very favorable contract. I mean, the guy's locked up for the next 6 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, that is true. And if they traded him, they'd only have to get counted against this year's salary cap, and then it bounces up huge next year for the rest of the deal? Something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, all the trade intricacies and nuances. I mean, you got to be a brilliant mathematician to have all those formulas figured out. Only recently have I paid attention to that. But, man, it's tricky to trade players and acquire assets and take on enough payroll without getting the luxury tax. It really is an art form. But let me get back to something you said, about David Blatt. What kind of offense are we running, and what did he used to run when he was over in Tel Aviv?
I mean, David Blatt's offensive system in Tel Aviv, it created a lot of ball movement. We haven't seen that so far in Cleveland.
You mean like the San Antonio Spurs against the Heat last year in the finals?
Yeah, exactly. You had very lively ball movement where, basically all 5 players conceivably touched the ball every time down the court. I mean, like you witnessed last year against Miami in the finals. It was a display that, I personally hadn't seen the ball movement like that in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's Harlem Globetrotter stuff. It was really good.
It reminded me of the Phoenix Suns from, 6-7 years ago. That kind of ball movement where every player on the floor touched the ball, and it didn't matter who shot it, they were going to score. I mean, it was just, they were so efficient on the offensive end. And unlike, in Cleveland, like I said, give them time to work things out. It's still very early. Don't forget that Miami started 9-8 a few years ago, and they looked really bad at the beginning. They were just, they were all over the place. And it's going to take time for LeBron to adjust to play with these guys, especially Kyrie Irving. And it's going to take Kyrie, to realize he's not the guy anymore, that LeBron is the guy in Cleveland. It's not him.
Yeah, and almost like James will go, no, all right, buddy, go on, Dwayne Wade. Let's see as far as you can take us. All right, you done now? All right, are you done now? It's time for the big brother to take over here. All right, you ready? Now, all right, now we're done with your show. Let's see. Let me show you my show. Because really, LeBron did defer to Wade in that first year because it was Wade's team, right? Just like he might be doing to Irving right now.
I think he's going to stop deferring to Irving. I think that's definitely something that's not going to keep, continuing. This is LeBron's team. He came here. He made it his team. When he assembled this team in the offseason, it was clearly guys he wanted to play with, and it's his team. It's not Kyrie Irving's team. When he went to Miami, he joined Wade's team. There's a total difference in what happened. This isn't Kyrie. Dwayne Wade had a championship when LeBron joined them. What did
LeBron's rejoining his old team?
Got in the 33-win season.
Yeah, LeBron's rejoining his old team. Kyrie was holding the placemat while he was gone. Huh. I was wondering about what you said about David Blatt, though, with a lot of passes and talking about the Spurs. Didn't the Cavs have time to coach ways that we can run set plays and passes?
Real time. I mean, don't forget in the preseason, they never had this. In the preseason, it was very tough to get the whole starting 5 on the floor, let alone the whole team.
So that was a pretty big deal that different players were out at different points for different reasons, that they could not build that playing chemistry.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, and I get that. I get that to a certain degree. I just didn't expect that they would be this bad this early. I just didn't expect it at all. I thought their talent alone would get them past a certain point, and they're looking really bad. That Portland game.
Like I said, it's not something I'd worry about just yet. Yeah, they looked terrible in the second half of that Portland game. But like I said, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch.
Yeah, fortunately. No, but this leads to something else, though. There are questions out there now wondering, myself included, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, maybe it's the paranoid or constantly disappointed Cleveland sports fan gene that I have in my DNA. But is it possible that the Cleveland Cavaliers just got the equivalent to when Jenny came back home to Forrest Gump at the end of Forrest Gump, and she wasn't quite herself, and she was sick? LeBron lost about 100 pounds in the offseason. He's not looking very energetic out there.
They're going to be fine. I'm telling you. Like I said, this isn't the time to be panicking. And like I said, they will make moves if this continues. I don't think, personally, that they can be this bad. They have too much talent to be this bad.
But could LeBron be sick?
What, with AIDS or what?
With or what? With or what? Nothing specific. I have hell, Ebola flew to Akron the other week. Who the hell knows? But he lost a ton of weight, and he's just not looking like the same MVP guy that we've seen over the past 5 years or so.
It's early. I'm telling you, he looked fine in the Bulls. He looked great in the Bulls game.
All right, I'll give you that. He did. He showed what he was capable of in the Bulls game. But people were legitimately wondering, at least about, is his back okay? Why are you losing this weight?
I don't know. I'm not there in the locker room with him, so I have no clue.
Okay.
That's an issue. I don't know if his back's okay or not. It might not be.
Yeah, and I mean, missing those games in the preseason, very I don't know. It is the preseason, but apparently it's really important. So what do we do from here to get the Cavs
like
better?
I said, you just let it play out for now. I mean, the East is so weak anyway; it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to make the playoffs. So, and like I said, I'm not panicking at this point. Neither should you. They're 1-3. They're not 0-18 or 1-12.
Now, could the Lakers end up that bad?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd honestly be surprised if the Lakers are better than 0-9 or 1-12. They stink.
They do.
They're the second worst team in the NBA right now, and I'll consider them the worst team because Philly doesn't count.
They're on a totally different
Philly's
level.
not. The thing is, what Philly's doing to their fan base and everything is just absolute. I mean, it's disgusting to see it. It really is.
How many years of this lousiness are we on now?
I mean, this is year number 2.
Phew. Well, you know, they get to play GM how they want to play GM. Maybe there's a method.
I mean, the thing is, they're 3 to 5 years away from even being. They're 3 years away from even being in that rebuilding phase. I mean, don't forget, they haven't even filled out their other part of the roster with talent. You know, they've got Michael Carter-Williams and Nerlens Noel right now. That's it. You've got Joel Embiid, who's most likely sitting the year. You've got Dario Saric sitting in Europe. You know, you're going for another top 3 pick in next year's draft, and I really hope they get the number 4 pick just to prove it and, you know, just stay in their face like, yeah, you didn't get it. You know, it's honestly what they're doing to a good fan base is honestly terrible. I don't see them winning anywhere near 7 or 8 games this year with the way they're playing. I mean, they're playing the Bulls tough right now, but this is a team that can't withstand it. You know, Tony Roden Jr. is going to wind up breaking the turnover record.
Jeez.
I mean, they're just. I mean, like I said, as much as I don't see how this team is going to win any game.
Well, I mean, you take Russell Westbrook and you take Kevin Durant out of the equation. What the heck are we expecting from Oklahoma City this year? You know, a lot of people had them ranked in the top couple teams in the West. Houston and Memphis, along with Golden State, kind of, I don't want to say running away with it. Obviously, it's been a week. Everybody, listen, by the way, I get that it's a week, but I will panic if the Cavs start looking as bad as they do. I get that Houston and Memphis have a long way to continue, and Oklahoma City can bounce back with Westbrook and everything.
You know, well, the thing is, it's going to be tough for Oklahoma City. They need to start winning some ball games now. You know, because you cannot dig yourself in too deep of a hole in the Western Conference. I mean, it's going to be an issue. I mean, Houston, this is what Dwight Howard was playing like in Orlando back in 2009. I mean, they look unstoppable. And, you know, Trevor Ariza has been better than Chandler Parsons was a year ago. So they look to be fine. I mean, just imagine that team if they would have been able to get Chris Bosh this offseason. Wow. They'd be unbelievable.
Man.
But they're already playing great basketball.
Yeah, but and this is the team that we said made so many mistakes for a team that everything went right for. Everything's been going so wrong, and 6-0. That's pretty good.
Howard's playing great, and they've been beating every team. They just haven't been beating them; they've been crushing every team.
Well, we'll watch that play out.
They're a really good basketball team. They really are. I mean, like I said, there was no doubt they were going to make the playoffs this year anyway. But like I was saying earlier, I mean, it just their offseason went from having Parsons and Bosh to having Trevor Ariza. Trevor Ariza played borderline all-star basketball last year. You know, he was very close to being an all-star last year, and but losing out on Bosh was a huge loss. Even though you never had him, it was still a big potential loss. Because don't forget, you got rid of Jeremy Lin, you got rid of Omar Ashik, but it may have just been what they needed. I mean, Jeremy Lin is whatever. You know, he's nothing special. Very overrated. I do like Ashik, though. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, but, you know, like you said with the chemistry, maybe that had something to do with them not being able to get it figured out. Maybe there was, you know, tension between Ashik and Dwight and not really knowing whose team it is, but you do, but it's an uncomfortable... You never know how big of a role chemistry can play. I mean, look at the Cleveland Browns with Greg Little last year, and just down the line, you never know where, you know, like the personalities are going to determine how well the team does. I mean, that's really what we're seeing in Cleveland. Talk about the East for a second. Let's flip back over there.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Getting back to the Sixers, I was trying to go through the starting lineup.
Please do.
Mahamute, Jafar Sampson, Henry Sims, Tony Roden Jr., and Hollis Thompson.
Wow. Sounds like LeBron's supporting cast in Cleveland.
They're way worse.
Back in the
These
other
are- these
day.
are a
No,
bunch
I'm
of
just
teenagers.
kidding. I think the Cavs had an amazing bench. Everybody just gave us grief saying you never gave him a superstar and ripped on us. No, I mean that's a starting NBA lineup. That's incredible to me. Could the Sixers team get beat by some of the best college basketball teams this year?
I'm going to go on a limb and say the Kentucky team from, when Anthony Davis was on that a couple of years ago, I'm going to go on a limb and say that team may have been able to beat them.
Okay, but it's only may have been able.
I mean, like I said, I can't say they would have.
But it's such a
Terrence
hypothetical. Nobody could ever prove you wrong. We can't go create that, so you're safe in this guess.
That was a good team. I mean, there's a decent chance they could have beaten Philly. I mean, it's not like Philly. These guys weren't even college superstars. Luke Richard Malamute was good. Jakar Sampson, I think he went to SVSM. Henry Sims wasn't a superstar. He was a Cavalier reject on their crappiest team. I mean, it's just funny.
Wow.
KJ McDaniels, Alexi Shved, Chris Johnson, and Brandon Davies.
So,
I mean, wow.
And yet they sit there with the same exact record as the Los Angeles Lakers. Go figure.
The Lakers aren't much better. The Lakers have Kobe Bryant. The Lakers have a bunch of college superstars. Nick Young. Kobe Bryant's been a superstar, and he's having a good season. He's just taking, way too many shots. The other night he took almost 40 shots.
He feels as though he has to. What the heck else is he going to do?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. What is Derrick Rose going to do? Because, I mean, first it was the knee, then it was the other knee, now it's his ankles, and how's Rose looking in those Bulls as they sit there at the top of the East?
He just can't stay healthy. I mean, he's not playing tonight. I mean, he just cannot stay healthy. I mean, that's his issue. And it's really sad to see.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, the Bulls are a good team without him. I mean, that's the thing. They're still a very good basketball team without him.
And in the East, it doesn't take much to make the playoffs. But are they a team that's legitimately contending for a title? That's...
I mean, for an Eastern Conference, you're not going to win a title without Derrick Rose. And if the Cavs don't get it together, who else is going to contend with the Bulls? I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, last year...
I mean, there's Toronto and there's Washington, but, we'll see how it plays out. But like I said, I still expect the Cavaliers to be up there. I'm going to stick with that I'm going to stick with that for a while because they're too good not to be up there.
And I'm still sticking with that as well. I'm just kind of astonished at just how bad they have been. Maybe it is just going to take some time, but I don't know how you teach passing unless you have to pass it. Unless the coach says, look, unless you pass it twice on offense, on every trip down, I'm not putting you back in the game, or finding some way to be like, guys, you got to shuffle this ball around and you got to do it now.
Their ball movement will get better with time. I mean, there's no issue with that. I mean, it will get better. It's just a matter of time.
All right, I'll give you that. Miami's hanging in there. Brooklyn's New York Charlotte.
No one's really standing out in the East. I mean, the Bulls look good, and that's about it.
Yeah, lost to the Cavs, their only win. I mean, go figure. I don't know. So I guess in the early season, what are the main storylines that we haven't touched on yet? As far as, we got the Cavs, we got the epically bad Sixers, horrible Lakers. What's jumped out at you so far?
I don't think really anything else has jumped out at me so far other than the way that, I don't think there's any other really big surprise. I mean, the Nuggets are absolutely awful. I mean, I don't think there's any huge surprises in any conference so far right now with any team.
All right, so you're not surprised by this. Let's remember, everybody,
No.
9-8. The Heat started off with, and then they made the finals that year. So, all right. Well, then, how about this? If you got another moment, I would like to maybe talk about some Browns and Buckeyes. You down?
I'd love to talk Browns with you.
Man, I know that's where my heart's at today, too. That's the fun in this show. Sometimes, you want to talk a whole ton about basketball, and sometimes you really just want to talk a whole ton about football. And let's face it, the Cleveland Browns are now in first place after really trouncing an opponent in their house on national stage. It wasn't even close. It was not one of those cardiac kid games. And of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes, 7-1, play the 7-1 Michigan State Spartans. Was it number 14 versus number 7? Or there's all these different rankings now. It's a big week for football, so let's do this. We'll hit a break and just kind of bounce it right over. And we'll split this up to another segment on the other side. If you're not following Zach on Twitter, he's at Zbaris. That's Zbaris. My name's Brian Engelman, and you're listening to the New American Media.
It's the Unhappy Hour.